In today's English lesson, we're exploring some of the English language that you can use to talk about exams and tests. Now, taking tests and exams is something we all have to do at some point in our lives. This month, my daughter is sitting her GCSE exams, and at the end of this week, on Friday, my son is taking his driving test for the first time. It could be a little bit of a nerve-wracking week. As usual, there'll be a blog on my website going over all the vocabulary and expressions that we've used in today's lesson. I'll put a link below so you can check that out. In the introduction, I said that my daughter is sitting her GCSEs and my son is taking his driving test. You can sit, take, or do an exam or test. One of my students is taking her IELTS exam later this month. Another student is currently sitting her university entrance exams. Another is doing his finals at the moment. So, firstly, let's look at some English vocabulary for talking about exam preparation. The first verb that I'm going to introduce is to revise. You revise for exams. My daughter is currently in her bedroom revising for her English literature exam tomorrow. And when you revise, it means that you review previously learned material. Some people revise by making notes or flashcards. Others make mind maps. Others reread material. There are lots of different revision techniques. The next verb that we're going to look at for talking about exam preparation is to cram. Now, when you cram, it means you study intensively and you pack lots of revision into a short space of time. Usually you cram at the last minute, so you might cram for an exam the night before. Then just before the exam, you might just look over your notes. Look over is a phrasal verb that means to review briefly. Prior to taking the real exam, you might do a mock exam. A mock exam is a practice test which simulates the experience of the real exam so that you're prepared. So for my daughter, she sat her mock GCSE exams before Christmas. My son will have a mock driving test before Friday to prepare him for the test. It's inevitable that while taking exams or tests, you'll usually experience some sort of nerves. You might wake up in the morning of the test feeling a sense of dread. Dread is the fear of the unknown. We could also say, I get the jitters just before an exam. A jitters is kind of when you're almost shaking, or you feel like a nervous wreck. People also talk about feeling overwhelmed around the time of exams. I think trying to retain so much information in your head can feel a little bit overwhelming sometimes. Okay, so it's exam day. You go into the exam, you sit down, you turn over your paper, and then suddenly your mind goes blank. When your mind goes blank, it means you can't remember anything. It's important to slow down and take your time to work out your plan for the exam. Okay, another phrasal verb here, to go through the questions. And another phrasal verb, to read over your answers. Reading over your answers is checking what you've written, making sure you haven't made any silly mistakes. Stay focused and try not to run out of time. If you run out of time, it means you exhaust the time that's available to you and you have no time left. I ran out of time during the exam and I couldn't finish the last answer. Finally, let's look at some vocabulary for talking about after the exam. Immediately after the exam, you might feel a sense of relief. You might feel relieved. You're glad it's over and out of the way. You might come out of the exam with a sinking feeling. A sinking feeling is a feeling of slight despair. You might feel like you messed up the exam. I've definitely come out of exams with a sinking feeling and a fear that I've completely screwed up the exam. And later I've been pleasantly surprised when I got the result. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. On results day, you discover that you nailed the exam. If you nail something, it means you succeeded, you did really well in something. Or you passed with flying colours. Or maybe you just scraped through. If you scrape through, it means you just get enough marks to pass the test. If you're unsuccessful in the exam, you fail, and you may need to resit or retake the exam. In order to practice this exam-related vocabulary, I'm going to suggest that you tell yourself a story. Now, you could write this story down or you could speak it out loud. But tell a story about a time that you took an exam and incorporate this vocabulary in your story. Even better, add some of your own idiomatic language into this story, maybe describing how you felt or how you celebrated, something to pad the story out to make it a richer story. If you want to share your stories with me, you're more than welcome. And like I said at the beginning, you can have a look at my website for the blog where I go through all this vocabulary. If it's currently exam season for you, then best of luck. Make sure you like and subscribe for more English lessons, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson.